Things aren't looking good for the Denver Broncos this season. Their QB is injured, and other players are suffering from one thing or another. Then their worst fear came true when the lead player was injured too. The season for Javonte Williams is definitely over after only 4 games. In this video, we'll talk about how he was injured and what this means for the rest of the season. First off, how did he get injured? It looks like Javonte Williams won't be playing for a while. Tom Pelissero, an insider for NFL Network, said on Monday that Williams tore his ACL in Sunday's loss to the Raiders. The injury means that his season's over after only 4 games. We heard that the running back also tore his LCL and posterolateral corner. He also tore his ACL. The 2021 second-round pick will have a long way to go to get back on track, and he's not the only player on the team to be injured. On Sunday, QB Russell Wilson hurt his shoulder. Apparently, he's still in a lot of pain. He was listed as limited on the team's practice report, but the coach said he'd play against the Indianapolis Colts. Williams went down hurt on Sunday's first play of the third quarter, so we saw it coming. The running back couldn't put any weight on his leg and needed help to get off the field. Williams looked sad on the sideline before they carried him to the locker room. Up next, how was the game going? He was the clear lead back for the Broncos going into Week 4, and he got 9 carries to Melvin Gordon's 1. After Gordon lost the ball for the 4th time this season, the team put him in the doghouse. After Williams got hurt, Mike Boone played most of the snaps at running back in Week 4. We'll find out if Hackett trusts Gordon again as the lead back, starting with Thursday night's game against the Indianapolis Colts. NFL Network Insider Tom Pelissero said that the Broncos could also bring Devine Ozigbo up from the practice squad. They're also bringing in veteran Latavius Murray from the New Orleans Saints practice squad. On Sunday, when the Saints played the Minnesota Vikings in London and lost, Murray scored a touchdown. Losing Williams is a significant setback for a Broncos offense already having a rough start to the 2022 season. Russell Wilson has to go on without his best back for catching passes and a runner who could make hard yards. Even though the season's only a month old, Denver's already lost Williams and wide receiver Tim Patrick. Followed by, is it over for the Broncos this season? The Denver Broncos 2022 season is over after they lost 2 games in a row in weeks 4 and 5. Even though they're 1 game under .500, this is the end of the season. In the NFL, having a record of 2-3 isn't a death sentence, but it is for the 2022 Denver Broncos. The team won't make the playoffs. They might win a few more games. After 5 weeks, the team still has the same problems that hurt them earlier in the season. Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett aren't the only ones to blame for the team's terrible start. The 2022 season's over because of many things. Moving on to what's going wrong for them. This team's being held back by Nathaniel Hackett. Even though he's only been the head coach for 5 games, it's apparent that he doesn't know what he's doing. He hired a staff that makes the Broncos, who have a lot of good players, look like the Lions of old, who never won a game. In particular, through 5 games, the offensive line has looked terrible. It's unclear why Denver let Mike Munchak leave the building and instead hired Butch Barry. Players have gotten worse, and Wilson probably didn't expect his new offensive line to look this bad. What do we call it when a professional sports team repeatedly makes the same mistakes? 5 weeks in a row is more than just a trend or a routine. The coaches aren't doing their jobs well enough. Drive-killing penalties are still happening. Still, bad play calling's happening, and the staff doesn't seem willing to make any changes to the players on the field to try to fix some of the problems. They dug a hole for themselves and now don't know how to get out. They're using a stepladder when they should be using a ladder. Next, let's look at the team's stats this season. First of all, the defense hasn't been all that bad. Yes, the Broncos have been letting teams get 5 yards per carry on first downs. That's the 8th worst in the league. But they're only letting teams score 16 points per game, which is tied for 5th best in the league. facts matter much more. Also, the defense has only given up 5 touchdowns in the last 5 games. At 4.71 yards per play, the 2022 Broncos defense is 6th in the league. Meanwhile, at 4.01, the 49ers defense is the best in the league. And let's not forget how 6.55, the Seahawks defense is the worst in the league. The Broncos defense is 20th in yards allowed per carry right now. The 49ers are in first place with 3, and our next opponent, the Chargers, is in last place with 5.82. The Broncos are second last in scoring right now. Only the Colts did worse. With 30.4, the Bills are the best team in the league right now. The red zone touchdown percentage is not only the worst in the league, but also on a pace that's never been worse. Only 3 of the team's 14 red zone trips have ended in touchdowns, not to mention the expectations they had from Javonte Williams. His injury was a significant loss to the team because they had a lot of expectations from the player. When the Broncos traded up to get Williams in the second round of the NFL draft in 2021, everyone was talking about how good he could be. As a gap/power back, Javonte Williams had all the skills in the world to do well at a very high level. A team picked him up with Shermer and Munchak running the offense. For the Hackett offense to work, he had to get smarter and improve his game. Vision isn't usually something that grows by leaps and bounds in the NFL, but Williams was a rookie. That can be both a good thing and a bad thing. He's been a running back longer than Gordon's been in the NFL. Williams doesn't have the same look as other backs in this area, like Austin Eckler, Nyheim Hines, or DeAndre Swift. But Denver's 2021 offense had some success getting Williams involved in the passing game. He'd sometimes split out wide, and when linebackers came out to cover him, he'd beat them. Williams still had some things to work on, but he was the Broncos' best pass-protecting back, which worked well with Russell Wilson's style of play. And now it looks like Russell will adjust to an entirely new style of playing. Let's learn more about Russell Wilson playing after his shoulder injury. Wilson flew to Los Angeles last Friday and put an injection in his throwing shoulder, but he isn't expected to miss any time. Wilson and the 2-3 Broncos lost again, this time 12-9 in overtime to the Indianapolis Colts, who were without their star running back, Jonathan Taylor. Wilson's first few games with his new team have been rough, but he looked awful on Thursday night. He completed only 21 of 39 passes for 274 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 picks. Wilson is number 14 in the NFL in passing yards, tied for number 23 in passing touchdowns, and number 28 in passing completion percentage. This season, he's missed targets 14.1% of the time, which is the 8th highest percentage in the NFL. The Broncos average just 15 points per game, which is second worst in the NFL after the Colts. Finally, Broncos versus Chargers odds in NFL Week 6. In Week 6, the Denver Broncos will play the Los Angeles Chargers at SoFi Stadium. The game will start in Inglewood. So far, the Chargers are the favorite to win, with a spread of -5.5. The over-under for the Broncos versus the Chargers game is 45.5 points. Based on how the Broncos have done against the spread in the past, the model's 53% sure they will cover the distance in Week 6. Both predictions consider the most recent injuries to Broncos and Chargers players. It's hard to be hopeful about Monday night's game against the Los Angeles Chargers. The Broncos' future looks terrible because they are getting hurt on both sides of the ball. The Denver defense has been good, but they'll miss Ronald Darby, who tore his ACL. Neither the Broncos nor the Chargers have lived up to the hype before the season. The heat's on for both head coaches. It could do a lot for their morale if the Broncos don't lose in primetime again. And on that note, that's a wrap for this video. What do you think will happen to the Broncos now that they've lost so many key players to injuries? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.